After going through the book of Genesis chapter 12 and chapter 13, to be precise, in chapter 12 is where Abraham receives a calling. When he receives a calling, he obeys God and he begins to move towards the land that God told him. In chapter 13, verse 1 and 2 of Genesis, Bible says, and Abraham went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him into the south. Verse 2 is what I'm interested with. Bible says, and Abraham was very rich in gold, in silver. He was very rich. In other words, when Abraham obeyed God, God prospered him. So what made Abraham to prosper? That is what you have to do for God to prosper you. Let's prosecute this point very well so that we can settle the matter. His walk with God, that's number one. He obeyed. There's no greater path than the path that God gives you to walk in. We don't lean in our own understanding. We don't do what we want. We don't allow our own wills to prevail. Attention. This man walked with God, staying obedient and listening carefully was part of what made Abraham prosper. Staying obedient to God. This man was obedient to God. Do you have issues with obedience? And then listening carefully. If you're going to walk with God, you have to learn how to listen carefully to the instructions that God gives. Staying obedient and listening carefully. Because if you are going to listen, then you must do what you listen carefully. That which you listened carefully, you must implement it. What else? Putting down his own life for the sake of God's will. Look at Abraham. Putting down his own life for the sake of God's will. That means sacrificing your own will, your own ambitions, your plans, yes, for the sake of God's will. How many of us that if God needed you, you will lay down, you put down your own life for the sake of God's will? Abraham had a life in Padaran, in the land of Ur of Chaldeans. The Ur of the Chaldees. He had a life there. He had friends. He had family. He had relatives. Yes, he had projects, probably. Pay attention. But he put down his own life for the sake of God's will. Now, was it easy? No. It was not easy to do the will of God. For Abraham to obey, it was not easy. Let me paint a picture for you. Abraham is born in a background where they are worshipping the moon, the goddess Ashtoreth or Ashtoreth. Now he comes and says, God has spoken to me. Which God? Is it our moon that we worship? No. The God, that the creator of heaven and earth, has spoken to me, and I said I go to a land. Where is it? I don't know. He will show me. Look at the battles he went through. Look at the rejection. Look at how they ridiculed him. Look at how people, look at that. Look at what Abraham, have a picture. I'm trying to show you what Abraham went through. Some things are not captured in the Bible. But is it not obvious? Was there not resistance? There must have been resistance. But he put down his own life for the sake of God's will. God appears to men and says, I want to use your womb. She's a spouse to be married to Joseph. God is putting Mary in an awkward situation. God is also putting Joseph in an awkward situation. But you know what? You have to do the will of God. If you are going to prosper, then you have to put down your own life for the sake of God's will. Amen are willing. Jesus said, nevertheless, not my will, but your will be done. If you are the kind of people that will always not allow the will of God to prevail, that it's all about your own will, what you want, not what God wants, then the divine prosperity of God will not prevail in your life. Listen, we get shaped and formed through the trials of obedience. So as Abraham is obeying God, is getting shaped and formed. Listen to this one. To go through physical and mental challenges, it makes us stronger and wiser, filled with knowledge, and that itself is wealth. Not material wealth, though, but spiritual wealth. But spiritual what? Wealth. And of course, material things. But the material wealth is not for your own pleasing. For example, in Genesis 12 verse 2, God tells Abraham, and I'll make you a great nation, and I'll make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. So the material wealth is not for your own pleasing. It's God's work. It is for the will of God to happen. Now, God's work doesn't mean church only. There are people that the work that God has given you to do is to help the needy in the society. Funds. Is to touch the lives of the elderly in the society. Whatever it is that God has given you work to do, that's God's work. So God's work is not just the church. It's not just contributing your money for the work of God and for the gospel to advance. There are people that are given to help the needy. There are people that their burden is to help children that cannot afford school fees, to make sure that they go to school. So the material wealth is not for your own pleasing. It is for God's work. It is for God's work. God will bless you so that you can be a blessing to others. I'm teaching on prosperity. God will bless you so that you can be seen to others. God will lead you. God will provide for you so that you can do what you are ordained to do. Do you know what you are ordained to do? Do you know? Then God will lead you. God will provide for you. God will prosper you so that you can do what you are ordained to do. To prosper is more than to prosper in wealth. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, in the book of that John, the third epistle of John, chapter 1, it has only one chapter, verse 2, it's a prayer that I'm making to you. It says, beloved, I wish above all things that you may prosper in all things and be in health, even as your soul prospers. I want to leave you this prayer, and I declare your life. I pray that in every way you may succeed and prosper and be in good health. Oh, hallelujah. Be in good health physically. Just as your soul prospers spiritually. So the blessings to prosper, God is going to prosper you physically and spiritually. That is the essence of the third epistle of John, chapter 1, verse 2. May God prosper you spiritually and physically. This is your portion. God is going to prosper you spiritually, physically. I pray for you that as your health,